Joy? Okay. The first item that needs to be done is to see whether there's any public comment.
You want me to unmute everybody and see?
Um,
I
Can they? Yes.
Sure, I'll unmute everybody to see if they want to say anything. All right, they are getting unmuted slowly but surely.
We have to do it individually?
No, there's a little button.
Cool.
Okay, I don't know if anybody wants to say anything.
Luke and Pat and Michael aren't unmuted according to, there goes Luke.
I'm good, guys, though. Thank you.
I did the same thing. I just muted myself back.
Okay. So apparently there's no public comment. Okay, do you want to mute the public again, Joy?
Sure, or they can mute themselves.
Okay. So I'd like to start with the issue of whether we're going to continue to pay staff salaries, because I think that that's what's most on people's minds, and I don't want to delay getting an answer on that. Paul, can you tell us what the other libraries are doing?
Yes, there's there's a Google Doc which everybody is filling out, which explains what everybody is doing. At this point, what it looks like is staff, both part-time and full-time and so on, are being paid by all of the libraries. I don't see any exception on that document at this point. Some people, most people are just saying for the time being. Some people say the next 4 weeks. So it seems to be the common practice at this time.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
I mean, I guess my thought is that I'm not sure what the downside is to having them stay on the payroll, but my other question would be, if they're eligible for the unemployment that was just passed, is there any way they could possibly be better off? I don't think so, but would they be better off being laid off so that they can get the unemployment that's being offered federally?
I have a concern about people being laid off from the standpoint of then what happens to their health care benefits.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. Yeah. Overall, it's not like, I mean, I think they should be paid. I think that, we're not a revenue, it's not like we're out of business and we don't have the income to pay them with. And so I think we are in a position that we can continue to pay them, and I think that's a good thing. No, go ahead, sorry.
No, that's okay. That was me. Okay.
I was going to ask you, is there any change in our revenue coming in?
Just wanted to make a comment on the fiscal condition right now. Because we received the expected tax, we're very solid for several months, about half the year. And just my sense is that these are such turbulent, frightening times. The most important aspect that we have to preserve is the staff. I think at this time, it's not a fiscal reach for us to continue to pay the staff as is. And, excuse me. I'm sorry, I didn't mute my phone. It's nuts. And so about 70% of our resources are spent on staff. I'm sorry, let me just chill this thing when put it on Do Not Disturb. I'm very sorry for that interruption. At any rate, because we're not fiscally challenged, we're not dependent on activity or income to continue to support the staff payment, I think we should make a concrete time at which we might review that. But in the immediate, there isn't a crunch for us to do that. To be able to secure for the staff their knowledge that they'll continue to be paid in this period, we both preserve our capacity to work, to function, when and if we can get back to functioning. And it would give us all time to just wait for the developments in health and how that's being managed. We're in a national state of emergency, a state state of emergency. And if we began to discontinue livelihood and support for the staff, it would add to their concern, and we're not being forced to do that. So if we, at this meeting, said that we'd agree to continue staff payment for a period of time, 4 to 6 weeks, and continue to review it, it would make sense to me to preserve our resources, and the primary resource is the staff availability and their dedication. I think it would be premature to begin to disrupt the continuity of employment. It might affect pensions, medical was mentioned, but their general well-being and confidence that they're secure about their job would be important for us to do in a leadership manner. I think these are very frightening and turbulent times, and if we can at least stabilize their continuing income and be reassuring to them at this point, I think it would be the right thing to do as an organization.
I totally agree with everything you just said.
I think
I also would support those comments as well. The one other piece would be that I think there's institutional knowledge that our staff have developed over the years, and it'd be really unfortunate to lose that. So I think if we can maintain the team that we've got, I would be very supportive of that. This may also be an opportunity then to think big picture in terms of longer range projects that we'd like to think about when we aren't being distracted by daily activities. So this may actually be an opportunity to do some things that we've not been able to do in the recent past, just in terms of planning and looking ahead to the future.
The remarks you just made, all of them, I don't think I could say it better myself. Totally in agreement with them.
I think that while we may be in good financial shape now, we're looking at losses of revenue going forward with what's going on in the economy, and it's just an unpredictable time. I don't know that we can count on the tax revenues that we've been able to depend on previously to the same extent. I expect that people aren't going to be able to pay their taxes. And so we're going to get a reduction in that. Our donations will be reduced. What we get from the foundation will probably be decreased. So I think we have to be cognizant of that. And I feel that as much as I personally would like to see us continue to pay the staff, and I feel it would be good for the economy, I think that I have to look at, as a trustee, our mandate to use the funds for services for our patrons and residents. That being said, I feel that I think it's to the benefit of our patrons and residents to continue to pay the staff so that they will be available. We're also looking at a time, because of the economic hardship, that there's going to be increased demand for our services, as happened after the 2008 recession. I also think since we have this ability and we haven't been able to compensate to the staff as much as we have liked, that this is an opportunity to compensate them at this really difficult, unpredictable time. So I'd like to move that we continue to pay staff until, extend it through April 30th. I think that we'll be getting financial information at the upcoming board meeting that we should be looking at. But I know Paul has said he would like to see us continue to pay staff at least through that time. Who knows how long this will be going on.
This is true. We're going to cross that bridge when it comes. And if there's going to be a motion to do that, as long as there's a provision that will be revisited with whatever that current situation, financial situation is, that you can't forget that at some point there is going to be a cost if we lose the staff in their experience, in their knowledge of the operations. I know the people behind just a cert desk are dealing with like 92 steps or some incredible number of steps in order to close the library. To go back and recruit and then train new staff in case we lose anybody. We've lost so much, and I think this is the time to make sure we keep the best resource that we have, which is our staff. At a point where there isn't the money or it's going to be too difficult, that's another thing. But if there's going to be a motion to continue until the 30th, it has to be with the understanding that we'll revisit this. So it's not in any way implied that on the 30th, that's going to be the end.
Marie, would you, the only thing that I would change about the motion is, what if we continued it until the board meeting in May, so that it was really more 6 weeks? I don't think fiscally, all of Evelyn's points are exactly right. The cost to have to replace staff would be huge, and it would give them, at least 6 weeks of feeling like they didn't have to worry about where their rent money and food money was going to come. And by mid-May, we should have a much better sense about how long this is going to last.
I'm in total agreement that we want to continue to pay staff so that we don't lose them. I would be more comfortable keeping the motion at April 30th so that we have the input from the meeting on April 14th.
Well, here's the other part of, the Cuomo's best estimate is that we're going to peak in around 3 weeks. So April 30th is probably going to be right around the time that we're really going to not quite know, but we're close to knowing how things are going to, and I don't think there's any way on April 30th that we're going to say, let's not pay the staff, because we may only be looking at another 2 or 3 weeks before they have to, before we can open the library. It just seems a little too soon to me to revisit it then. Well,
we can revisit it on the 14th. That we can extend it at that time if we feel it's appropriate.
But then that leaves people uncertain about their income. I think there's just knowing that they're going to be okay for the next 5 or 6 weeks. It just makes sense to me, and I don't think that I don't think that there's any way. I can't imagine there being anything that would make me think, let's stop paying staff about 2 weeks before this might actually we might be able to open the library.
But we don't, I don't know. most libraries are extending the closing till further notice. I don't have any positive feeling that we're going to be able to reopen that quickly. I know what Cuomo's saying, but, and I know he only closed schools for an additional 2 weeks today, but I would feel much more comfortable making it longer once we've had an opportunity to look at the finances.
If I may interject a question that may have bearing on this are there tasks that are going on? Is there, I'll use quotes, work being done now that would we say, hey, work is happening, and why would we even be talking about whether we need to make a change in staffing? Or is it we're saying that there's no work going on and really we are trying to maintain the core staff in order to be prepared for future activity?
Paul, do you want to answer
If
that?
there's work going on right now, then it's a moot point, I think.
Yeah, there is definitely work going on now. This gives us the opportunity to do some planning for future programs and that sort of thing. It gives us the opportunity to take advantage of staff development opportunities, webinars, and that sort of thing, which are, by the way, filling up fast. You know, it gives us the opportunity to do some work as a staff that ordinarily doesn't get done, you know, in the busy time when we're open. So yes, there's definitely work going on.
So Marie, does that affect your thinking on this at all? Is there any language that you would feel comfortable adding to that proposal that talks about the work that goes on or expectations of the work that would be going on that would make you more comfortable if we were to extend that time out from the beginning of the end of April to I think Marlene had proposed end of May, I think.
No, the May board meeting, which is like the mid-May. So that we would we would be discussing it at the May board meeting.
Bob, you were trying to say something?
Yeah, I would like to say something. I think that extending the motion to mid-May would be reasonable and give us more time. But in the end, by passing a motion that would extend our commitment to staff salaries and full employment up to that time, it doesn't mean that we won't be meeting and planning and going on with our assessments. And if we begin to compensate staff for tasks, they should be tasks that don't require them to come on site, because the whole purpose of our phase now for the public at large is to stay at home as much as possible and eliminate the possibilities of contamination. And then what we should do as we begin to plan, rather than just look at staff salaries as an opportunity to reduce, we should look at all of our expenses, what can be suspended, what contracts can be modified, and look at all the potential savings so that we come up with a more reasonable response or a balanced response. It's just not on the shoulders of staff entirely, but I think that there's so much unknown at this time. But if we begin to meet at April 10th and thereafter and get as much information as we can, what are others doing, I think that we could make a more informed choice. And I don't think we could do it in one meeting. I think we'd have to have a series of meetings and the financial end, then present it to everybody, including maybe the staff, keep them aware of our directions. And I just think because we're not physically pushed to do this now, extending the commitment to pay until mid-May gives us time to really assess where we are, where is the community, and God willing, we'd be back at that time, but I don't know that that's true. I don't know. No one knows. So the unknowns certainly outweigh the knowns, but by making a commitment to go 6 weeks and then we plan to meet in the manner that we're meeting now, just to develop an assessment. And so, Paul, I think starting to look at if it's cost savings that we're trying to do, let's do them comprehensively, not just the salaries, and start to look at what we can do and what we would need to do in a more comprehensive way. That's my proposal. I'm hoping, Marie, you would extend your motion in time, and then we will have meetings, this kind of meeting electronically, to begin to attack the problem in a comprehensive way.
The problem with trying to reduce in other areas is that so much of the costs are for staff, so that it's hard to make reductions in the other areas that might address the expenditures that we're going to have going forward.
Well, I wouldn't know that till I really reviewed every cost center. Are there services we can reduce at this time? I think we need to go through the drill, whether it yields any product or not. You may be entirely right, but I think we should have a group that meets and reviews all of those opportunities. And if there are no opportunities, that would be fine. But it's very hard to make decisions today without being more thorough about our research and going over cost center by cost center.
Yeah, I would also agree. The cost of replacing a single staff member is pretty expensive compared to paying somebody. And if we're thinking that, we're going to take people off salary for say 2 or 4 weeks, we could potentially lose those employees, and then the cost of replacing any one employee who decides not to come back is a multiple of a full year's salary. So we should be very, I think, judicious before we make any decisions to reduce staff until if it comes back and it turns out we're not going to be able to provide services for a year, I think we have a very different conversation. But we don't know, what the time frame is right now. So I would be in support of waiting until the May board meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to add a little bit to that. In terms of staffing, it's going to be important to have existing staff when we start up again. And that time is going to be, as Marie pointed out, it's going to be, I think, a high demand for service because the economy will be pretty much depressed at that time. A number of people will be out of work. They'll depend on the library for materials and for programs. Without staff, and when you talk about staff, we have 15 part-time. 15 of our staff are part-time people. Without those people, you're not going to be able to start up, with the kind of services that people are used to having from their library.
I would be in support of the timeline that Bob and Mark and Arlene spoke of as well.
That was too. For at least May 15th. Again, with the understanding that that's not the end, but it will be revisited at that point.
Can I
Okay.
just ask a technical question? Are we on the free version of Zoom that we only get a 40-minute meeting?
No,
Is that-
this one is a paid version.
Okay, just checking.
Yep.
Joy, I think Michelle doesn't have, her microphone is not on.
It's just not on because I keep it muted in case my dogs start barking while
Okay.
while you guys are talking. I don't want to be disruptive, but I agree with the May timeline as well. I mean, I'm sure this is obviously If we have more information when we have our meeting in a couple of weeks, I'm sure we'll discuss it. It's something that obviously is first and foremost in our mind, and maybe we'll have a better idea of everything in the next couple of weeks. But I think for all the reasons that everyone else has said, I think doing this until our meeting in mid-May makes sense, and it is one less thing that the staff has to worry about.
Okay. My question wasn't at all about whether it's valid to continue paying the staff. I totally agree that it's important to continue to employ the staff so that they can provide service when we're able to return, because they are a valuable resource. And I also feel that they deserve our compensation, especially considering that we haven't been able to do as much as we would have liked for them. And we're now in a position to do more. It was just solely based on not having looked at the financials, which I thought we would have an opportunity to do with the board meeting in April, or in anticipation of it. So I will modify the motion to be pay the staff through May 15th.
I would like to second that.
Well, is that with or without a provision that will be revisited then?
With revisitation going forward at the April board meeting and also the May 14th board meeting.
But if we're making the motion now to go through May, is it the 15th?
Mm-hmm.
Then we wouldn't be really revisiting it in April. We could be looking at it, but we can't revisit the motion, that decision.
Right.
Okay, so you want to revisit it on May 14th, at the May 14th.
Is it May
board
14th?
meeting. Is that what you're saying?
Right. I think that's what the consensus is, that we pay staff until that May board meeting, at which time we will revisit the issue and either continue that decision or revise it in whatever way is necessary, which means that in April, that motion carries until May. So we can talk about it, but we can't.
Right.
We could call it maybe a status update.
Right.
Yeah.
We could call it a status update at the April meeting and revisit at the May board meeting.
Right. Paul, what's the pay period that ends around May 14th? Does it matter whether we do it up until the end of a pay period? Does that make it easier?
Pay periods. Joy, what's the pay period?
Yeah, give me a second and I'll make sure to give you that. I just want to make sure I have the right number.
Otherwise, you're going to get into, it just would be easier, I think, if we did it up until the end of a pay period.
So the pay period for May ends on, let's see here. We get the check on May 13th. That's for the pay period till the 10th.
Till the 10th. And you're paid every 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we could still leave at the board meeting, I guess, because you will have gotten that you will have completed a pay period, and we'll be meeting like in the middle of the next one, so we should be okay. So the motion's already been seconded, right?
I did second.
Okay, great.
All in favor? Slow roll. So Mark, you're muted. Okay. You're still muted. Can you see
Now I'm
Bob?
not. Now
Okay.
I'm not. Aye.
Okay. Bob discovered this fancy.
Yeah, I'm voting by hitting reactions, and I put a thumbs up there.
Wow. Look at
The
that.
button on the bottom right. But yes, I vote yes.
Evelyn,
Aye.
Arlene,
Yep.
Michelle,
Aye.
Kirsten,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Michelle, were you able to get that?
Got it. Everybody voted aye.
Okay. So the next issue on which we need to vote is whether to extend the closure of the library, and until when? Paul, can you tell us what the other libraries are doing and what your recommendation is?
Yes, right now we had elected to reopen on March 30th, which obviously is not going to happen. So that's what's in all of our signs and all of our advertisement. All I would like, and everybody else now has on the document closed until further notice. Somebody has closed indefinitely, but I don't think that says what we want to say. I think until further notice sounds about right. So that's what I'm suggesting, that we put in all of our notifications and online and everywhere else.
I'm okay with that. That sounds good to me.
Consistent with everything that's being done in every other organization I'm related to.
Yep. Mhm.
Just as an FYI, Albany Public's board and director have come up with a 4-part slow rollout. First, I think it starts at the end of April. Again, with all dates, flexible and fluid, with a slow opening just to staff, nothing else, then opening slowly with no programs, no meeting rooms. It was fascinating, listening to it, but I just thought it was an interesting way of operating.
Does anyone have a motion on this issue?
I would move that we have the library closed until further notice.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, slow vote call. So Mark,
Yes.
Bob, you're muted. Okay. Evelyn,
Yes.
Arlene,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes. Aye.
Kirsten.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
If I could, I just want to say that, Paul, we can begin planning and looking at the finances involved soon, and work through this time so that we're not exploring alternatives as the due dates come near. So maybe we can begin to look at a process and ask others to join us, and just review our options, if there are any options, or just take a look at what do we do with reductions generally. I think it would be good to start reviewing, what our options are, because it gets nearer. We might find what others are doing and be able to sharpen that process.
Yes, right now we're going to be working on, the figures for the financial reports. At this point, it's a little bit difficult. because we haven't had any mail service. So we're going to be picking that up. We don't do a lot we don't get a lot of bills online. Generally, they're all paper because our auditors like it that way. So yes, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be working on getting that financial report firmed up so you have it for the April meeting. I do want to add that there are some savings that are taking place. There's savings in the utilities. Since the library is closed, there's no lighting, even though we have the new lights, it's still a lot of lights in a library. There's less heat, so those utilities will be less. The supplies will be less at this point since they're not being used up. So there's some savings. Again, as you pointed out, Bob, 70% of our bill, our expenses are staff, but there is still some savings.
Paul, the security company, how are we dealing with that?
Well, that's another savings. That's just suspended. We don't have long-term contracts with our security company, so it's as needed. It's an on as needed basis. In addition to, we have suspended the nighttime custodial work. So those are the kinds of savings that we're realizing.
Paul, just also curious, the subscriptions we have to newspapers, not so much magazines, but mostly newspapers because they're more likely to be daily. Are we still getting them?
Well, right now we've continued all subscriptions because, and especially the Troy Record, of course, because that's something that is digitized and is part of the archives. But we also like to keep our subscriptions to newspapers, at least at this point, still active because people come in looking for the older papers.
I had a business with the Times Union, and I went to their building, and they said after 30 days, they no longer store their newspapers. They refer me to the library across the street. So I think it's a library function to receive and maintain the records. I would like to say our next meeting is April 14th. Well, if we could get a finance meeting midweek, the week before, by the maybe 8th, we could then start looking at how do we pull together a task force to look at this issue of continued employment and expenses. And I'm sure there's other people on the board or maybe even outside of the board who might want to participate in that. You might consider an employee, I don't know. But as we review this, I think a full review and as a deeper way we could do it would be advantageous. Joy, if we had a finance meeting midweek, like Wednesday the 8th, would that be a challenge to you in regards to the financial statements, or what might they be ready at that time?
I will do my best to have them ready by that time.
Good. Then that's what I would propose, Paul, that we have a finance meeting at some point, Wednesday or Thursday of that week, and then we can make a recommendation for how we approach this process, and do it with a task force. I'm sure Marie would want to be active on it and or chair it. I'm not sure, and we could talk about that. Mark, if you're well healed by that time, your skills would be most welcome.
Just a suggestion, would that be part of the finance committee instead of creating a new committee?
No, I think it would be a task force of the board. So not just finance. No, I did a task force. Marie could appoint it or lead it, or one of us could, or we could discuss how best to do it. I think the first part would be fiscal. The second part would be more total dealing with our responsibilities.
I think the people who are interested in the financial aspects volunteered to be on the finance committee.
Okay.
And we kind of make our committee meetings open to anybody, any board member that wants to attend.
Good.
So that might be the best choice, is unless somebody from who was not on the finance committee feels differently. That would be Arlene, Michelle, Kirsten.
I'm okay with you all keeping your finance committee as it is. I don't feel like I'd have much to offer.
Ditto on that for me.
Joy, is the Tuesday, April 7th, is that pushing you too hard? Because Wednesday, April 8th is the first night of Passover. And Friday of that week is Good Friday. So we're like right in the middle of major holiday season.
Tuesday's fine.
So
Good.
let's do it Tuesday.
It'd be more convenient for me too.
Hmm?
The 7th would be a great time.
Yeah, it's a good lucky number too.
There you go. You know, some of this I don't know when we'll get relief, but we'll just stay attuned to what's going on with the world and our state.
So Tuesday when, at a particular time? So, nobody has a time?
Just looking at it.
Oh, it's 4:46. Is that what you meant? I didn't hear.
A time for the meeting.
Oh.
Because it's a committee meeting will need to be posted like this was.
To do 4 p.m.
4 p.m. would be a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Is that agreeable to all the people who want to attend?
Would 3 be better for you, Paul, earlier, so it's more into your employment time?
Oh, no, that's 4 o'clock is fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
April 7th? Tuesday, April 7th?
Yes.
4 p.m. Thank you.
Paul, you told us a little before everybody else joined in about what was occurring. And I think also in response to Kirsten's question, is there any more to update us about what the library staff is doing?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Let's see. As I said, staff development is sort of an ongoing project, and it gives us time to do more of that. Right now, no, we're looking at our orders. I think we need to, as everybody else is doing in the system, ordering more ebooks and looking at that whole project. I think people are searching for ideas and so on. This is pretty new for us. I don't think in the history of libraries we've ever had a close this long, but so people are, searching for ideas and what people really need out there.
Paul, one of the things when I remember in my business, when we had like downtime, which was usually related to losing a client, you know, the staff we would get the staff together. We'd start evaluating all the things that we did that we didn't think we did particularly well that we could improve upon, that we would never have the time to think about while we were actually doing business.
Right.
And this is a great.
Yes. We do have regular department head meeting a couple times a week. So that gives us all a chance to a lot of interchange and sharing, you know, information and that sort of thing.
Well, when you have those meetings, do you do them electronically or do you do them face to face?
No, they're electronic, just like
Good.
this. Yeah, we use Zoom the same as.
I think the key issue for everybody is safety. So, you know, these are stranger times than anybody has ever experienced. I was saying to somebody, my dad was probably 10 at the when the Spanish flu occurred, and I was surprised that there weren't stories in his generation about what that experience was like, given the level of death worldwide. But you know, what we're experiencing is very. It's an event that we've never experienced anything like it. I think whatever we can do to encourage the staff's full compliance with the recommendations of the government, we should do.
And we also have staff that take the bus to work as well, which is the advantage of being able to communicate remotely, is that they don't have to do that. Is there anything else we should discuss, Paul?
Yes, actually. We'll have the full bills for you at the April meeting, but I have 3 bills that are due before that meeting and need approval to pay those. It's our retirement system, TIAA. There's a bill from Hanover Insurance, which is our primary liability insurance carrier, and the Amazon bill. All of those are due before the meeting in April.
And we didn't approve those at our last board meeting?
No, we didn't, did we? No, we didn't, because the TIAA is bi-weekly.
Right, the TIAA was the only one that's not approved. The other 2, I believe, were approved, but needed a signature from Bob, but I didn't know how.
I could come down, but I couldn't come down before next Tuesday because restricted.
Right.
Tuesday afternoon, I could be happy to come down, or Marie can come if you need it sooner than Tuesday. We could ask Marie to come. I don't know if you could come. Is Tuesday sufficient time?
Well, also another option could be online payment, if that's okay with you.
That would be fine, but
so then, you know, you don't have to come into the library or anything like that, because Hanover Insurance does allow for online payment, and so does TIAA. And I could check on Amazon, but I'm pretty sure they also allow that.
well, that would be good. You could just send me a request for authorization. I could sign it, scan it, and send it back to you, and we could be paying without a need for any face-to-face. And you'd have your document.
Right.
That'd be great. The only thing we should do at this meeting then is authorize me to approve those 3 payments. Well,
I guess it's just the one, the TIA.
Yes, I think the other ones were already approved. I just put them on the list so that you knew what I was, you know, if we could pay them online, I wanted to find out if that was okay.
approve that as a process, that we approve doing it online?
Right.
Joy, have you the amount or a ballpark of what the amount is? It's 5,000 something for TIA?
Oh, for TIAA, it's $1,999.37.
All right, so let's just ask for approval not to exceed $2,500, and we'll do it in that electronic way, and then it can be, it's a non-issue, it's resolved. So I would make a motion that we approve a payment for TIAF not to exceed $2,500, and we'll go ahead and make the payment.
I'll second the motion to pay the TIAA bill. All in favor? Slow roll.
Aye.
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 Slow roll.
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Evelyn,
Aye.
Arlene,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Kirsten.
Aye.
Motion carries.
There we go.
Anything else?
At this time, that's all I have.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah.
want to thank everybody. Thank you, Paul, for your leadership in this uncertain time and unpredictable time, and to the staff as well, who is doing their best to provide services to our patrons and residents under the conditions that we're experiencing. Anybody else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'd move.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you later.
Take care,
Bye.
everybody.
Good luck.
Aye.
Be safe.
Yep, you
you.
too. Bye-bye.
Oh, forgot the public comment period.
Should I stop the recording now or?
I forgot the public comment period at the end.
Want to do that now? Just unmute people if they're still there and say, hello, any comments?
I'm still here. I can be a witness.
Okay, I guess
Are there
guess
any
there are
public comments?
only three of us. So
Everybody that
does
wants
it?
to
Any
talk.
of the public want to make a comment? Oh no,
I would.
somebody said they would, right?
Virginia.
Hi, Virginia.
Hi. First, thank you guys again for showing your support for the staff and understanding the value that we have. We really appreciate that. But I did want to add, in addition to what Paul said that we're doing, there's a lot of other stuff. I'm sure you've seen Carol Roberts and Amy posting videos of story time. We're helping people remotely with their library accounts and answering all of the emails that are coming through. We are working on a lot of staff development, but I'm also beginning to reach out to my staff and try to come up with our own approach to reopening when eventually we are going to do that, so that we can make sure everybody's safe and take into consideration everything that we should to make sure we can still provide services when we're ready.
That's
That's great. Wonderful.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Virginia. I did forget some of that.
Right. There's a lot going on, Paul, but thank you.
I know.
And I appreciate it, Virginia, because I was uncertain what the circulation staff was doing. So and I know you're very conscientious and innovative, but
Right.
it's helpful to.
We definitely were concerned about that as well. So we're trying very hard to be good stewards of that money during this time and making sure that we feel like we're earning it as well. Not just from past, but at this current time. So my staff are taking advantage of those continuing education and in-service type trainings that are available to them. But we are still helping our patrons remotely with assistance with registering online and working out any problems they might have with their accounts. And like I said, we will work on a reopen plan with Paul when we're ready to do that, so that we can roll that out seamlessly.
That's
In my
great.
defense, I have to say that I did actually go to the story hours.
They're actually
That's great.
Well, thank you. And Virginia, it also helps us too, because I'm sure we'll need to explain what we're doing to the public. And so it's really helpful for you to educate us so we can do that. So thank you.
Glad to do so.
You know, all the people that are putting things on Facebook from the library that connect us to other opportunities for enlightenment. I didn't know the Metropolitan Opera was doing, taking things from their library and letting the public see them. This is Wagner Week. So there's a lot of things that, I'm not the most big on the social aspect of the internet, but looking at the Facebook now more regularly, I found a few things like, oh, look at this site. So, I very much appreciate having that linkage. So
well, I'm sorry, I won't take responsibility for that. I've kind of left that to the reference and young people's staff, as I'm focusing more on background stuff, which I tend to do. But we do have, our staff is really dedicated to putting out good information, reliable information, and connecting people, and just really just putting ourselves out there so that people know we're still here for them.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? Hearing none, I guess we're adjourned.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you all.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Thank you, Joy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.